Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. I am your host, Derek Mata.
And I am Andrew Goody, and we are proud of you. This is a dad advice podcast about the ups and downs of modern fatherhood. None of the advice that Derek and I have should be taken as professional guidance of any sort. We're just two dads trying to figure things out, talking about what we did and what worked and what we did and what didn't work, and any questions that you guys may have as you're listening.
Yeah, so the one thing that we've been struggling with a lot lately is my youngest son, sleep. This kid
Oh yeah.
hates sleep. I hated sleep as a child too. He will do anything to get somebody to go into his room. You know, there was a red balloon in his room, a red balloon. He has to go pee. He has to go poop. Like I thought sleep training was going to be hard. No, this kid never tried to leave his room, but it's now trying to get him to go to sleep. And and the moment he opens his eyes, anybody? And we're just like, oh, 5:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and nap time. Anybody? I'm awake.
That's great. Man, I'm gonna
No,
start waking up
no,
like
no.
that.
I love the kid to death, but like, I was like, please just stop. Like 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, let me sleep in. But during the week, oh, let me tell you, during the week, he's like, oh, it's 7:30, I'm still sleeping. 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday when you can sleep in. No, I hear birds chirping outside. What's that sound?
Nice, nice.
but
Yeah.
the sleep training. The reason I bring it up is because one of our viewers wanted to bring it up and how he was having an issue with sleep training his own kid and then how it was going with his wife. I'm going to paraphrase the message. It's on my phone here. Um, his whole thing is he wants his kid to learn independence. Like sleep training is an independent thing. You're not confined to your room anymore. You have your own say. So what he does, puts the kid to bed and he waits outside, closes the door and waits outside. So if the kid opens the door, he's like, no, it's time to go back to bed. Um, I'm like I said, I'm not trying to give too much information of who it is, just in case somebody knows the
Yeah, of
individual.
course.
Um, but
Listener
it goes
anonymity is important, as requested.
exactly. And so the issue is he can't stand there all night. And so what happens? Mom feels bad. Like, let me tell you, my wife does that all. Oh, he wants snuggles. Oh, babe, he just wants me to snuggle him. I'm like, no, don't. Like, there's a time and place to snuggle him, not every single night because he doesn't want to go to sleep. But in his case, wife's like, oh, just let him come to bed. It's fine. Like, the kid's learning that. And he works, was it? He works daytime, she works nights. So conflicting
So
parenting
she's up when
styles,
the kid is up.
that kind of thing. I think their schedules cross a little bit. Um, so they had to compromise. Like she had to agree to be a little stricter and not let the kid sleep in the bed with him all the time, and he had to agree not to get upset. Air quotes here for those listening. Get upset for the kid trying to run out the house or run out of the room when they should be in bed. And one of the things of advice, and I know it's probably controversial, and that's the beauty of this podcast is not everybody won't agree with everything we say, but some people say flip the doorknob inside out and put a lock on the outside. Like it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. Like
Man, I'm just not a fan of taking away your kid's independence like that. The whole, you mentioned that, and no shade on the listener. You mentioned that the listener is trying to teach their kid independence with this. I don't think that I'm locked in a room, so I need to go to sleep is independence. I think that's the opposite of teaching your child independence.
and that was just broadening the example. Like
Of course.
he would stand
I mean,
outside so the kid could open the door, but then there's dad. Like
of course. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, as with everything on this show, you know, we've said it before. I'll say it again. As long as you're not hurting your kid or abusing or neglecting your child, there's no wrong way to parent. It's a series of choices that you make, and parenting and being a dad at the core is just trying to make the best decision that you can, that fits your situation and your lifestyle. For me, I would never be that dad standing outside the door, but that's just the way that I am in the relationship that I have with my child. And also I have an 18-month-old, so it could change dramatically. You know, that I think you mentioned the listener's kid is a little bit older, right? It's 3 or 4.
About 4 years old.
Yeah. So that's definitely a different situation. You do your kids have nurseries? Do they have their own room?
Yes, both of them did have their own nursery.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
So my wife and I took a different approach. We co-sleep. So my daughter, like I said, she's 18 months. We've been bed sharing since she was born, which definitely, you know, look into it. The American Pediatric Association has really strong opinions, mostly against bed sharing. It's not recommended by a lot of American physicians. There are countries all over the world that nurseries are an unheard of concept, and bed sharing or co-sleeping, which to clarify, not everybody who has their baby in their bedroom. Some people have their crib in the parents' room. That's co-sleeping. We have our daughter in our bed, which is bed sharing, which is a form of co-sleeping. And there are safe ways to do it. I highly recommend, if you are considering bed sharing, specifically La Leche League, which is a breastfeeding organization, has quite a bit of information on what they call the Safe Sleep 7, which is 7 pieces of advice for how to bed share safely. And it's really important because there are obviously risks associated. There are risks associated with sleeping in the same bed with somebody else, right? If Derek and I shared a bed and I had a nightmare, I could give him a black eye, right? It's obviously escalated when you have a baby.
I don't know why we went there, but
hey man. But yeah, so I mean, the whole concept of my child sleeping in a different room is a bit foreign to me. And that's, I mean, obviously she's not going to be sharing a bed with us when she's 18, but I'm not going to have a problem with her crawling into the bed when she's, you know, 6, 7.
And I guess my
18.
question is, do you have a period in which you're going to be like, I think now is the time to move her to her own room? Like,
So
do y'all have a set milestone there?
So we don't, and you'll find, as this show continues on and our conversations about parenting continue on, a lot of my partner and I's take. My wife and I really believe in following each other's intuition and trusting our kid to know when she's ready for the next step, and knowing when we're ready for the next step. So we don't have a set time frame of, you know, when we're going to stop bed sharing, when we're going to stop breastfeeding, anything like that. We just kind of take the moment as it goes, and follow, you know, what's making sense for us right now. Bed sharing still makes sense. We're going through a phase right now. She's 18 months old. She's been teething a lot, and so she's nursing a lot more overnight, which is keeping my wife up. And eventually I could see that potentially hitting a point of diminishing returns where, hey, this isn't working because my wife can't get sleep because the baby's in our bed. Maybe me and the baby go sleep in a different room, or maybe we just have, you know, we do set up a nursery for Alana, and she can sleep in a different room. But it's not a set, you know, at 3 years old she's out, right? Like, it's just when she's ready for that, you know. And I think honestly I could see Alana reaching a point where, at, you know, 3 or 4 years old, because she has her own room and it has a bed in it, and we nap in there sometimes, but you know, I could see her wanting that independence of, you know, once her room becomes like a cool place where she can, you know, play independently on her own. Or, you know, she can do that now, but she's not choosing it, and most of the time she wants one of us to play with her. I could see her wanting to sleep in there and sleep separate from us. And maybe that looks exactly like this, right? Of her waking up in the middle of the night and running to our room, because independence is actually pretty scary once it happens.
Yeah, I mean, my youngest sister, like I I want to say until her I don't know. Not that my sister will ever listen to this. I want to say probably preteens. Every time it thundered, she ran to my parents' room. And I always thought it was weird, but like I was raised on the like it's bedtime, you go into your room, you don't come out till the morning time, or if you have to go to the bathroom, obviously. So like that's how I raised my children. Like it is bedtime, you will stay in here.
Yeah, and I
But
I
like
was I was the same way. I grew up, we it wasn't a you have to go to sleep, but you were in your bedroom at 7 p.m. And after that, again, if you had to go to the bathroom, it was one thing, but other than that, you were in the room. You could read a book, you could do whatever, um, but you didn't get up until school or whatever the next morning.
and see, like ours is, we allow the kids to go into and out of the room normally, but like when we say it's bedtime, you lay down. We put on music. My son, we put on the 4K aquarium channel because it calms him down from all the
Yeah.
events of the day. But he is not allowed to leave the bed. It's not a punishment, but it's like this kid, you would think he drank an entire pack of Red Bull. Like he is nonstop. He puts the Energizer Bunny to shame. Like
Yeah.
this kid will go for days and days. So we have to tell him like you have to stay here. Like and but I mean we watch him. We've got baby monitors in his room. We've got two different ones with two different angles so we can watch him and make sure he's safe. But like it's bedtime and how you're doing it almost makes me I don't want to say feel like a bad dad or a bad parent, but like I'm very strict. Like
I will
rules are
say,
rules for a reason.
yeah, and I will say I got very lucky. My daughter has slept well since the first night in the hospital. Like she sleeps, I mean, on and off, and I'm sure my wife would have a different story because again, I'm not the one waking up to nurse with her constantly throughout the night, but she goes to bed typically between 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, and will sleep until 7 o'clock the next morning, and has consistently done that. I mean, not 12 hours the whole time, but she's slept 8 hours since she was born. Um, not everybody has that. Yeah, as evidenced by Derek's face, not everybody has that experience. So
No.
take it with a grain of salt. And again, that's us. What we're doing works for our situation, and when it stops working, we'll try something else. Maybe there's some dads out there right now who are trying something and it's not working. We're just here to provide our perspective on the things that haven't worked for us. So maybe
or
you can try something else.
or tell us what did work. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
had the same situation where my kid just kept opening the door and opening the door, and maybe you don't have locks on the door. Maybe you're just anti that way. Like that's okay. Like I said, everybody's different. But like, what did you do to keep your child in the bed or in their bedroom at least? Because I know this particular viewer will see that comment below when this is posted to YouTube. So they can take that. So or somebody else in a similar situation will take that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the great thing about this environment is it's kind of, Derek and I joked when we started this that it's kind of like a support group, because parenting is hard, and dads aren't typically, at least in American society, dads aren't told that it's okay to talk to each other about how hard it is to be a parent, or how good it is to be a parent either, for that matter. Guys just don't really talk about parenting a lot, and so you know hopefully our experiences can give you some insight into what, just one piece of information of what one experience looks like, and comment down below what your experience is, and how that went. We can all learn from each other. There's probably a lot of people out there who are smarter than Derek and I and have better experiences because they
I'm just kidding.
thought through thought through what they were going to do, and maybe not. I mean, you can plan everything in the world, and it doesn't always go according to plan.
And it doesn't. Like I'll say like we got lucky with my youngest daughter. She is almost 2 years old. She was a preemie, so she co-slept. Like we had her crib right next to us because like this little girl was all of this big when we brought her home. So
Yeah.
I we made sure she moved wrong, breathed wrong, like we were right there. So, but thankfully, she learned a lot better than her brother how to sleep. She knows as soon as that door closes, it's bedtime. Yes, she does have her moments where she's just. It was actually a couple weeks ago, like screaming at the top of her lungs. She needed her daddy, and let me tell you, as a dad, like nothing feels better than to have your kids just need you. So
especially when especially when they're going through an I only want mom phase, which I know yours is right now. It makes it even more special coming from the bottom all the way to the top.
oh, definitely, because she loves her mom because my wife works from home, so she sees mom 24/7. And so me down here in the basement playing games with guys on a Friday or Saturday night, and my wife texts me, she needs you, and I'm like, I'm there is nothing more important than my little girl needing me. So I went up there and I managed to get her to calm down, air quotes again. But you know what finally calmed her down? Her
What?
mother. But other than that, yeah, we put her to bed. She'll whine a little bit, like, "Hey, I'm not ready for bed." We close the door or turn the light off, close the door. Her music's playing, and she's like, "Oh, okay." She'll lay down. She'll play with her stuffed animals that she has in there. Out. So
Yeah.
no two kids are the same. So
We Emily and I, my wife and I joke about that a lot. We always say I loosened it for you. Because it'll be that thing, right? Where like you're trying to get the kid to sleep and you spend 30 minutes singing songs and reading stories and patting them on the head, and they're just not having it. And then you hand them off to the other parent, and it's like by the time they hit your shoulder, they're asleep. Like, I
yeah,
loosened
like
it for you. We took care of it. Don't worry. We're
no,
a team.
I like that phrase because yeah, that's what it was. Is she wanted daddy and was laying on daddy and climbing all over daddy, and I was like, you know what, like she's those otter pops. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
them by any other name. I was like, I know she loves popsicles. Like I'm gonna go down and get her one. I got downstairs, cut it open. By the time I made it back to the top of the stairs, yep, out.
Yeah.
she, my wife was holding her out. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
The best part about that is it sounds like you got a free popsicle for your gaming night with the boys.
no, I actually it was a flavor I don't eat. So I put
Oh,
it in
bummer.
I put it in the bathroom right outside in the sink, and it's like if you need it, it's right here.
There you go.
But I loosen it for you. I like
Yeah.
that.
So so do your two youngest sleep in the same room, or do they have separate bedrooms?
Currently, they have separate bedrooms, and without going into too much detail for not knowing who listens to this, things might
Of
change soon.
course.
That we are going to try to put them in the same room, but I'm not really sure because, like I said, she goes to sleep immediately. He does not. He will stay up 2 3 hours singing and dancing, like so. Like
It's that, and the hope is that by putting them together, she'll get him to go to sleep earlier and he won't keep her up for a couple hours, right? I mean,
so it's
that's the best case scenario.
yeah. So we're hoping for the best, but man, are we really dreading the outcome of this? Because yeah, when he wakes up, like I said, the moment his eyes open, it's I'm awake. Like, no, you're not. You're having a bad dream. I just
I
cry
feel
every
for you,
day.
man. Yeah.
Not every day. I cry on the weekends. But so fun times. And I want to say my though I guess the one thing when it comes to this sleep training and sleeping is I guess you haven't experienced it, and I don't know if you're gonna go for it. The cry it out method. Like there is I like the cry it out method, and it works to an extent. Obviously, if your kid's in there for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, like something's seriously wrong then. But like there's nothing wrong with your kid crying. So I'm curious, like, is that something that y'all would entertain? Because like I said, for me, I was more strict. Like you need to learn to sleep in your own room, your own bed. But you as a co-sleeping bed sharing parent, is that something you would entertain when if and when it got to that point?
Yeah, so I'm sure you're surprised. I'm pretty staunchly anti cry it out. And again, when I say anti, I want to be abundantly clear for all of our listeners. What works for you works for you.
Mhm.
I'm not going to judge you as a dad. Again, don't abuse your kids, don't neglect your kids. Um, but if it works, it works. Personally, for me, we talked about that style of parenting and letting your kid cry it out, and I do see the value in it because it's I don't know I don't really know how I was sleep trained as a child outside of what I can remember. Right, by the time I was 5 or 6 years old, I wasn't crying it out anymore.
Yeah.
But it feels more in line with how I was raised. And the big thing for me, and again, every parent is different and every kid is different. I never want my child to cry without a response. If my daughter asks for help, dad will be there, and I want her to know that inherently. And so, any chance I get to reinforce the fact that if she asks for help, help is there, um, I'm going to take that chance, and I'm gonna reinforce that with her. And so for me, the idea of hearing my daughter in the other room crying, and again, I know that like you said, it's okay for her to cry. She's not in danger. You've got monitors, so you can see that she is, he in your case is
Mhm.
safe. Um, but for me, the idea of if I was uh I'm in my office right now, and if I shouted out and cried and screamed, knowing that there are other people in my house and nobody came, that would be horrible for me, right? Emotionally,
Mhm.
like
Okay.
overwhelming. And I'm not saying that you're giving your kids trauma. It's just the way that I approach
No,
it.
it's a
Um,
great way. Like that is a great example. Like I never thought of it that way, but like yeah,
yeah,
like you know that my mom and my dad, the two people that mean the most in the world to me, are right out there. Why aren't they coming? Like I can see that. Like
yeah.
I respect it.
And it's also it comes from um not to dive into my family or my personal life too much, but I have a really hard time personally asking for help. It's really hard for me, and I know a lot of people who are that way of
I
of
think
our
that's
generation.
well, dads
um
in general like are scared to ask for help.
yeah, it's really challenging, and I think that you know culture has kind of taught us that you only ask for help when you really need it, or you only ask for help if you can't do something on your own, right? Like you're completely out of options. And I'm trying to raise a child who's better than me.
Well,
And
fair.
I want her to ask for help. I want her to reach out. And so for me, if every time she cries, I'm there to give her help, that's encouraging her to grow up to be a person who can ask for help. Not just when she is desperate, but when she needs help.
I mean, that's a solid point. I'm trying to like I'm imagining like if I tried that with my 3-year old because he has learned the game. Like I said earlier, like he knows what to say to get a response. He's the boy who cried wolf. We all know that story. Story, tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Like I just, I think maybe that's what my wife had tried. Like, hey, I'm gonna be there for him. And then it became a game. He's like, hey, I know what to say. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's an interesting concept because how you phrased it, I never thought of that way.
Yeah. And
Like,
I think it's really common. Usually when you hear this, it's the way that we heard it from the listener, right? Where the dad wants that little bit more strict, regimented, it's bedtime, we go to bed. And it's almost like an operant conditioning where, hey, it's 7 o'clock, you go to bed, that's what you do because it's bedtime. Where moms tend to be a little bit more empathetic and, oh, but they're not feeling good. We'll take them out. We'll break that rule for now. Just this
yeah.
once. Just this once. Um, and I think that shows, again, I'm not trying to sell anybody on my ideology or philosophy, but I think that shows through in the fact that typically, in my experience, from what I've seen in the world, women are better at asking for help than men are. And I think it comes from that same place of feeling like you have to handle something by yourself versus knowing that if you cry, mom's gonna come and get you, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. It was a
Yeah.
interesting thought process. Like, and I hope that it's this information, like people will take the information or people will give it a second thought. Maybe I know I was talking to a soon to be dad. What's today? Wednesday. So Monday. When our first episode hit podcast, when it hit Spotify, and I was like, take a listen. Like this, I was like, here's what our next episode is going to be. It's like that. I'll take a listen to that one. So
Yeah.
hopefully this will open up dad's eyes so then they can see it from their wife or their partner's standpoint. Like, hey, I think we should do that. And like, oh, I heard Goody saying that this is why he doesn't. Yeah, maybe we should
Yeah.
try that instead of being hard. Like a lot of us guys are raised as like you said, like bedtime is this time. You'll be in bed. You'll be in your room, lights off, like eyes shut, like, and then it's an endless cycle. Like we're all just angry people. Like, yeah, like as I sit here laughing, but like we're all upset, and then we raise our children the same way, and they're like, why are they not listening? And it's just, yeah, maybe this will open up somebody's eyes.
Yeah. Being a cycle breaker is never easy, but maybe it helps. I will say, just to turn the tables here, there's a lot of downsides to co-sleeping and bed sharing too, right? Um, when you put your kids to bed, you tuck your son in and you tuck your daughter in and you go to your bedroom and you and your wife have a bedroom to yourselves and you guys can watch a show, you can watch a movie, you can stay up and talk, you can have sex. um and
That's naughty.
uh
Make
and
more children.
for me, best case scenario, after our daughter goes to bed, my wife and I can sneak out of the bedroom and go watch a movie in the living room. Um, but there's pros and cons to everything, right? So I mean, I can't imagine the life that you're living right now, as somebody who for a year and a half has not had my bedroom be solely my wife and I's bedroom, because there's this third intruder in our sleeping situation.
And see, I guess that brings up some questions. Like, so, and maybe somebody watching this or listening to this will be like, wait, do you leave your 18-month-old in your room by herself? Like, how do y'all make sure that she doesn't fall out of bed? Like, I want to cover that because I know somebody's gonna lose their shit.
One, if you put an 18-month-old in the middle of a king size bed, they've got a lot of room before they're going to hit an edge. And we do have a baby monitor, so we know if she wakes up. And two, she now, I mean, especially at 18 months, she knows how to safely get up and down from our bed. And our room is, for the most part, fairly childproofed.
How
You look shocked.
I guess because like, okay, so I have a sleep number bed, so like my bed sits a lot higher. So like I'm imagining
Okay.
my daughter.
Yeah, you can't, I'm not going to say you can't. I could never co-sleep or bed share in a like super risen bed. My mattress riser is probably about the size of a mattress, so my bed sits about 2 feet off the floor.
Oh, okay. That's why I gave you that look because like I immediately went to my bed is way too high for.
Yeah,
for
she knows how to grab all the rungs on the ladder and get herself down from her 8 foot princess in the pea bed. No.
um, yeah, I couldn't because yeah, like you said, like we put the kids to bed and we're like, sweet, now we have time to ourselves, which is very important in a marriage. So like how I mean I guess y'all have somebody come watch her. I mean, spending time together is also important. I'm
Of
assuming y'all
course.
take the time once, twice a week to just spend time together.
We do. I mean, we spend as much time together as we can. The early phase of parenthood definitely felt a little bit more like we were roommates than partners, because I mean we were both exhausted and overwhelmed, and especially our daughter is what I lovingly refer to as a Velcro baby, or was, especially for the first year. She needed to be up and on somebody at all times, and still is to some effect to even today. And she loves that close intimacy and contact.
I'm
Um,
jealous. Like my kids
but
lost that real fast.
yeah, well, the problem being, if she's on one of us, we're not on each other. And, so there was, I don't want to say that there was a loss of intimacy, but the way that we spent time together looked different. It changed, right? We
Mhm.
definitely entered a new phase of our life. And we're you know have through time and figuring out routines, we've refound that. Um, and I'm sure we'll continue to refine that even more as she gets older and older and finds, that independence that I was talking about. The more that she chooses to play on her own rather than wanting to play with me or play with my wife, the more time that we'll have together. The way that I constantly look at it is, it's hard. Let me pause. Heartbreak. It's hard, right? Because the person I love most in the world, my wife, is a lot more distant than me. I don't get to spend the time that I want just the two of us together nearly as much since we've had a child. But we are going to spend our entire lives together. And if my daughter chooses to play with me instead of playing on her own, for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I'm gonna soak up every minute of that time with her, because there's gonna be a day where she doesn't want to play with me. She wants to go and play with her own toys in her own room or go off to college or whatever.
That's
Like,
a huge
there's
jump
a
right there.
hey man, goes by in an
It,
instant. I
no,
can't
it,
believe
it
that my daughter
does.
who was born last night is 18 months old now. So it's choosing, and not to say that my daughter is a priority over my wife, or that my daughter is a priority over me for my wife, but it's choosing that it's choosing to enjoy that shorter time span,
A segment of
and
time, yeah.
make up for the loss of physical connection in other ways, right? Because like my wife and I still, you know we still have sex, we still go on dates. It doesn't happen. Going on dates is challenging because Alana doesn't love being away from both of us. She's okay with being away from one of us as long as the other one is there. But she's very, very skeptical of being left at her auntie's house, or with either of our parents. So it's challenging and it's different, but we still make time, and we spend time together, enjoying having fun with our daughter, right? I mean, it's the date that she and I would go on, if it was just the two of us, looks very different than the three of us going to the park and playing on a playset together. But at the end of the day, the two of us, me and my wife, are still spending time laughing and playing and sharing stories, talking to each other. Just because we're doing it on a playground instead of a bar doesn't mean that that can't be intimate and special between the two of us.
No, I think that's all fair points because yeah, like you lose that somewhere, but you find it somewhere else. Like I like that, and
Yeah,
I think that's what probably a good way to end this episode. We're hitting what 40-ish minutes.
yeah, probably
Just
right about there.
just spitballing here. Uh, so recently we got all of our social media set up. Are we
Yep.
missing
So
any?
I was gonna say we're not on Facebook. If anybody wants to set up a fan page for us, please feel free. We're we are proud of you dads on Instagram and Twitter. We are proud of you on YouTube and any podcatcher you can find us: Apple, Google, the whole gambit. We're on Spotify and Audible. We're on Amazon Music. Basically, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you should be able to find this. If you can't, send us a message at proudofyoudads@gmail.com, and let me know so I can fix that.
And send us questions or something you want us to talk about. Like we want y'all to be involved, so it is a community thing and not a Goody and I are having a conversation because we do that all the time. But we'd like to spread our knowledge elsewhere, and just know that every comment, every like, every subscribe, like we go through. I know I go through because I like to see what people have to say. I like to hear about how, oh man, it was a good episode. Like I know y'all will get this. Like shout out to Nathan Cody on that one.
Yeah. Well, and this episode is a perfect example, right? This we decided to talk about sleeping situations on this episode because of you guys, because a listener told us that they were struggling with something. So, let us know, comment down below, send us an email, message us on any of the social media, and tell us, what you're struggling with, what you want to hear us talk about. And also know that we're not going to have an answer.
That is
We're
true.
going to have, what we are doing and what's worked for us and what hasn't worked for us. But at the end of the day, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is not professional parenting advice. This is purely dads trying to survive and how we did it.
That's right.
Well, I have been Andrew Goody,
And I am Derek Mata.
and we are proud of you. See you next week.